Do people send you inappropriate messages on dating apps?
I've never really used dating apps.
I feel like this is a Nigerian thing.
So are we talking about the standard of not being physically intimate with a man unless you're married?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is unrealistic today. If you're talking about a Western liberated country, which
Sure.
UK, US, Canada, Australia, half of Europe, that's an unrealistic ask for sure.
Why are we like giving our bodies, our time and energies to men like this, and they don't even know, they're not into us? Like, and my conclusion was, don't give anyone your body unless you're married, period.
Yo guys, welcome back to another episode on my channel. I'm sitting in this spot, which means I've got a great conversation lined up for you today. You know, on this channel, we love to talk about all things dating, relationships, and seeing what we can do to attract the kind of person and relationship we want. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, Aja. Aja, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Kit. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad. So this came from, Aja came from a little kind of comment section on some hot topic. And I was like, listen, she's got some things to say. She's, got some perspective. So we want to delve into that today for sure. But first, I always love to jump straight in, Aja. So first, tell us your age or your age range. Okay. Asking a woman her age. And one thing a guy should know about you if he was going to take you on a date.
Oh my goodness. That's a great question. So I am over 40.
Okay.
That's all I'll say about that.
So what she's going to say. All right.
And then if somebody wants to take me on the date, something they should know about me is that I'm very intentional and I know exactly what I want.
Okay. So can you elaborate on that? When you say you know exactly what you want, what is it that you're wanting and looking for?
So for me, in the case that I'm in, I actually was married for 17 years and I am like 4 years out of being divorced, 6 years separated. The divorce took a couple of years because it was during COVID. But I will say that I definitely don't have time to waste because I already spent 17 years, I'm over 40. So for me, that means that whoever I interact with, they have to, I have to know they know what they want as well. So I'm not sitting around entertaining good morning texts for like a week. I'm not going to do that.
So when you say know what they want, what do you mean? Know if they want you? Is that what you mean?
No. So I'm glad you asked that. This is a great question. So it's kind of like, say you're a salesman at a car dealership and somebody comes, you have two customers that come in, right? Who would you want to deal with? One person who's just kind of like, window shopping, maybe one day I want a car, I just want to look at stuff, or somebody who they've gone online, they know the make, the year, the model, they have their pre-approval, they have financing. Which customer do you want to deal with?
Okay, I hear what you're saying, the pre-approval. I don't think that's a good metaphor in comparison. I'd say it's more like this. Imagine you're hiring for a company, you're hiring for a position. Okay, you have two candidates in front of you. One of them has a great CV, right? The other one has an okay CV. Okay, but there's a probation period, right?
Okay.
Why do we have a probation period?
Because you want to see how they're going to perform.
Exactly. That's exactly what dating is. He can't know I want you from the first week because he doesn't know you.
Yeah, so that's the whole. Yeah, I don't want somebody to choose me right away because that's kind of scary.
Sure.
But I would like them to come to the table with the mindset like, I know I'm looking for something long term. I want this person to look like this. So it doesn't have to be me. And I tell people that, you don't have to know it's me, but you do have to already know what you want, because I'm going to deal with that person more readily than someone who's like, oh, I just want to go with the flow, see where it goes. Do you see how I would choose either one of those? But thank you for refining my example. That little bit of nuance was nice.
I get that. Yeah, some people they know they're looking for a long-term partner for sure.
There you go.
I think some guys though they can be open to dating someone serious, but they can be open to dating someone casually, and they don't know if they're going to date this person seriously or casually until they get to know them.
Well, that's problematic for me because now you're splitting. So then what is really your goal? Because for me, I am not interested in casual dating at all. So I'm not going to casually date and then seriously date. I don't even have the time to entertain both options. So sure. I have to really only deal with the person who is like, I am looking for a serious relationship, because to me, it's more efficient.
I hear you. Though I guess what I would ask is then, so is it, if you go on a date with a guy on Saturday, are you just not open to connecting with anyone else past that first date then?
If I go on a date with someone on Saturday,
are you not
today?
Today. If you go on a date with a guy from the first date, you locked off from everybody else?
No, if someone else emerges, I will entertain different options as long as they know in their mind they want something serious. But I will say that doesn't usually, I mean, to find three people who say they're serious, like that would be like a miracle, or four. Like it hasn't happened yet. So I can't say what I would do, but I would think that, yeah, whoever knows what they want, that's how I'll entertain. And whoever knows what they want more and they're more intentional, that could be the winner. Provided they meet, we're a good match. You know, it's not just I want a wife, because I've met those weirdos too. They're like, I want a wife, and that's strange.
Yeah, I get you. Well, you're kind of doing the same thing. The only difference is every option you're entertaining, you're seeing as serious, right? Whereas a guy can be entertaining multiple options, but one option he may see as serious, the other options he may see as casual. That's the thing.
Yeah, that definitely happens, but I just don't dabble with that because time-wise. And then to me, again, I think it splits it's like you have a plan B and a plan A, which can make your plan A not as effective.
But people do that though, especially women. I feel like women do that as well. They have a plan B.
Not me.
No,
not me.
To be fair, you've been married for a long time, so I guess.
Yeah, I just don't. I just don't have the time. I've already. I don't want to say wasted time, because I don't believe in regrets, or I don't think that was time wasted. But I've spent a lot of time, and I just don't have. I can't be. It's like when you have too many irons in the fire, or whatever they call it. You have too much going on, and then everything else becomes like mediocre.
I hear you. I don't even disagree with you, actually. Yeah. I don't even disagree with you. When you say like you don't have any time to waste, like what are you in the rush for?
Well, what am I? I'm not in a rush for anything, I don't think, but I don't want to just spend more time on something that is not going to work out. So I actually like to eliminate people pretty quickly, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Which I think is effective. Like, whoever might be
depending
watching,
what you're eliminating them on, but yes.
Well, the bar is pretty low. Okay.
Is it?
Yeah, but I lost my train of thought. What I was going to say.
Sorry, you said
I eliminate people quickly.
Yes.
Because
you said you didn't want to waste time.
Yeah, and somebody who's watching this, I can just imagine the comments now, like, she doesn't even have a relationship. She's divorced. Can you take relationship advice from me? I don't know. That's up to you. But I can tell you, number one, what not to do. And then I feel like finding the right person is as much as about avoiding the wrong people too, because you spend a lot of time with the wrong people. That can delay you getting to the right person.
100%.
Right?
Definitely recognizing.
I feel like I'm good at that.
Yeah. Well, I guess the question is like, what are you eliminating guys on? Because sometimes I think we can be so rigid in terms of what it is that we're looking for that we can actually miss out on someone amazing because we weren't as open as maybe we should have been.
So I will admit that I am very rigid. So I'm not going to try to dance around that.
Okay.
I would say the biggest thing I would eliminate someone for is usually mismatched values.
I think that's important though. That's fair enough.
Yeah. So that, and then because I deal with mainly the dating apps. It's just what I have time for. Sometimes I go out in the wild or whatever, but the approaches I get there are minimal. So I do depend on the dating apps. And I feel like there's such a low barrier to entry that I encounter a lot of people who just are plainly they have inappropriate behavior. Because think about it, if you're not paying any money, it doesn't cost you anything. Anyone can just throw a picture up, put a profile up, and there's no screening process to make sure who gets through. So,
but you're the screening process because you decide who you match with, don't you?
Yeah, so I'll match with someone, and if their profile is inappropriate, so they get skipped out. But there's some people who they're not going to present that side of them up front. So then you match, and they're already send a picture or something like that.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of that. So I would say that's the bulk of people who get eliminated. They can't even get past being appropriate or what you got on or whatever. And this is over 40, it's kind of disheartening because you would think people are a little more mature, but I feel like we're at a stage where a lot of people who they just don't even care anymore. So yeah, that I would say that's where a lot of stuff just ends, in the DMs and the messaging stage.
I know what you mean, but because thing is,
do people send you inappropriate messages on dating apps?
I've not really used dating apps. I haven't really used dating apps that much. I've dabbled, but I've not really used it that much.
So how do you? I feel like this is a Nigerian thing. Like,
What?
or people, a lot of the men I
She's coming
meet.
for me, guys. She's coming for
No,
me.
no, no, no.
No, go for it.
I
I
need to
welcome
know
it.
the secrets because
Go
I've
on.
encountered a few guys who, you know, from different places in Africa, and it's not just Nigerian. So I've met people from the Congo, and they're like dating apps.
I've dabbled, but
Okay.
I think because of my line of work as an actor and with this, you know, consecration stuff, I meet a lot of people in real life because my circle's always changing.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, especially as, you know, in the acting industry, if I'm doing a different job, I'm working with a new circle of people, or if I've got invited to a different event, I'm, you know, press event or something, I'm meeting people all the time. So most people I meet, or if we're talking women, most women that I've met in person. I've dabbled a bit on dating apps. Do you know what I mean? I've dabbled, but you know, but the biggest dating app is Instagram.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like Instagram, because everybody's on Instagram.
Mhm.
It's just an ocean, right? You just have to know how to fish.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, for
That's
sure,
clever.
for sure. Okay, what's something you want to bring to conversation? Because you had some things you want to talk about.
So, let's start with why you like asked me to come on. So the conversation, I was trying to
Yes.
recap it before, you know, off camera, but
Yeah.
essentially you were interviewing someone and he was talking about like how a man moves if he's like not into you like that. And he gave some different reasons and how he, you know, men act and all that. And my summer was like, well, women, why are we like giving our bodies, our time and energies to men like this, and they don't even know, they're not into us? Like, and my conclusion was, don't give anyone your body unless you're married, period, point blank.
Oh,
Trying
I
to shut it
see.
down. And then the guy that you interviewed, I can't remember his name on the
King, I
episode.
think it was. I
What
think
was
it
his
was
name?
King. Was it a
King.
black guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, King. Yes.
He kind of
Shout
like,
out to King.
yeah, he shout out to him because he got me here.
Yeah.
But his whole idea was like, you know, that's basically you're being like morally, you think you're better, and you know that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do, but you don't need to tell people to do that or something. And I think you jumped in, and I can't remember what it was, but it was getting a little heated. And then you're like, you should come on the show and talk about this. So I guess the thing I want to bring up is, why do people think that standard is like such a fuss or like unrealistic, or no, we don't need to bother with that? Like, is that unrealistic? Is it something that we should just throw away and not think about? Or like, what do guys think about that? Because I feel like other people have said like that's not necessary. You gotta try before you buy and all this stuff. But you know, what do guys think?
So are we talking about the standard of not being physically intimate with a man unless you're married?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is unrealistic today. If you're talking about a Western liberated country, which
Sure.
UK, US, Canada, Australia, half of Europe, that's an unrealistic ask for sure.
Okay.
Especially the older that we get. The same ask would be like, as a man, going, don't marry her unless she's a virgin. It's a very unrealistic ask, because back in the day, the phrase was no hymen, no diamond.
Oh, wow.
Right? You wouldn't marry a woman unless she was a virgin. Same as she wouldn't be physically intimate with a man unless it was her husband.
Okay.
So asking and saying that unless he marries you. Now, if you're talking about the general culture in terms of in the West, you're going to be very hard pressed to find that unless he's a very religious man.
Okay.
Right? Now, in very, very religious countries, if you're talking Islamic countries like Dubai, you know, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, all of those, right? Yeah, that's a lot more likely because, in fact, sex is illegal outside of marriage in those countries.
Mm-hmm.
So you're more likely to find it there because they're very strict in terms of their religious values. In the West, unless he's very religious, nothing's impossible. There's always exceptions, but it's so incredibly, incredibly rare to find that. A man that's going to go, especially if he's had relationships before, if he's been married before.
Yeah.
And where it'd be like, cool, we're not going to be physically intimate unless you marry me. You're going to be very, very hard pressed to find out. I don't think you would find it. I'll be honest. That's literally like looking for a needle in 1,000 haystacks. Okay.
So the follow-up question I have is, and I know there is a difference between like, you know, the real emotionally mature men and like the red pill, all this stuff. Cause I get these people coming at me all the time when I make comments. I'm like a man hater, bitter, all this stuff. Okay. But some of the things that I hear in that community, and we say it's red pill, but I think it can be extended to outside of that.
I agree. They don't have a monopoly on the truth.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like some of the things they say are extreme, but there is a more subtle version that some men may adopt, kind of like, it's not that extreme. But so, for example, some guys will be like, well, I don't want a woman that's a hoe who sleeps around, right? I want someone who low body count. She's not like on the gram showing her body. So I feel like that is something generally most men would want. Now, are you going to get a virgin? Probably not. Can you get someone with a lower body count? Yeah, but we, like you said, we're Western, we're developed nations, right?
They're out there.
But I feel like most men in their mind, they would prefer a woman that is like on the side of modest, chaste. She doesn't seek a lot of attention online. So like a lot of characteristics that would suggest that she reserves intimacy for someone that she loves, right? Would you say, is that something that men mostly want, or?
I agree. Yes.
Okay. So I feel like in order to get that from a woman, you would have to respect some boundaries, because you want her to have boundaries with other men. So I think it would follow naturally that you would want to see some boundaries, right? When she's dealing with you. So men might say like, I want this chaste woman who she's not sleeping around and everything. And then on the other hand, maybe expect sex very soon on the first night. And if it's not the first night, maybe it's anything outside of marriage or whatever. So I'm just saying, how does that get reconciled where men say they want someone who is, intimately, they reserve intimacy, but they want those boundaries to be broken for them? Does that make sense?
It makes absolute
So
sense.
how do
And
we-
it's
what-
such a valid question.
Yeah,
Arthur.
okay.
It's completely valid. So this is a conversation I have with guys, for example, like when they say, I want a girl to be a freak in the sheets, but she needs to have a low body count. I'm like, you can't have it both ways, bro.
Yeah.
You can't say, I want her to be the best I've ever had in bed, but then she's got little to no experience. Choose one. So I think you're right in the sense that how a woman is with him when it comes to the sexual side of things, he's going to be like, okay, if that's how she is with guys, that gives a vote of confidence or not so much, right? The perfect ideal scenario in a guy's head is the idea that she made an exception for me because I'm that guy for her. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I don't think it
I'm not saying that's what
gets you the
should be
outcome you
expected.
want, but yeah, that makes
Sure.
sense. I think that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, and is that possible? Yes, like you can get women who are, because what guys value is that she's sexually selective, right? That's the whole idea, like chastity, all of that stuff, because it gives a vote of confidence that she would be sexually loyal in a relationship, right? And that's not saying if you're more promiscuous that you're definitely going to cheat, but there is a correlation between people who cheat and how promiscuous they are. That goes for men and for women, right?
Exactly.
But men are a lot less forgiving of infidelity than women are, which is why they seek this even more so as a priority. So yeah, it can happen where a woman, maybe she's, not been with that many people, but she meets a guy and, that is just the guy. This is the kind of man that I want. And so he knows that even if they were physically intimate relatively quickly, he recognizes it's because she's incredibly selective and he's an exception, right? However, generally speaking, and I do advocate for women to not be physically intimate with him very quickly because you don't know if he recognizes that in you or not. It can give a different impression, right? So yeah, it's the balance. It's the balance of, okay, she's a woman who, she's not out here doing the most sexually, but also how we know if you like us is if you are physically intimate with us, right? And it doesn't have to be just sex, but if there's physical escalation. Because the last thing a guy wants is to be investing time, money, taking a girl out, pouring a lot of energy into her, and she's actually not into him. But she'll take it, because guys have experienced that.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
A lot of women will take the energy and time and money that the guys will do, but she's not really that into him, right? Maybe she doesn't allude to that. He's like, what? Nothing's happening, whatever. But then he later finds out, he's been trying for 2 months that the guy she was really about, they spent a whole weekend together where she was physically intimate, all of that stuff. And he's like, he gets resentful, all of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear this urban legend a lot. Like there's someone somewhere getting at her, which I guess that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely sleeping with someone.
Yeah. That's not you, because she breaks rules for the men that she likes.
Well, I do think that is true. I do think that is true. I think sometimes, you know, a lot of guys experience, I'll be honest, I've experienced where a girl will say, yeah, this is how I move, but she didn't move that way with me. And so it's like, and that's why it goes in, you know, when guys laugh amongst themselves with this. Like, for example, if, I don't know, anytime a girl goes, yeah, I don't usually do this. Every guy's smiling in his head. It's like, I don't believe you. Because we've heard that from so many girls. I don't usually do this. I don't normally do whatever. And the thing is, she may be telling the truth. So it's either she's telling the truth and, you know, as a guy, I'm just, you know, exceptional for all these different women, or she's lying.
And I think
she's just trying to save her reputation.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that makes me think of something where I think one of the things why like relationships and dating fails is because we don't look for people who are as principled as they should be. Because if someone has principles, they make their decisions ahead of time. And I feel like, and I will tell you, like, I haven't been perfect, and I've been refining myself because I'm back on the dating market. But I will say that my goal, and I feel like I've been doing pretty well with this so far, is that even if I like someone, I can't violate my principles. And I have encountered and had to eliminate men that I thought were very handsome and that were established, that had money. They were willing to, oh, I'm going to fly you out, do these things. But my principle says, like, these are the boundaries that I have. And I feel like that should be more valuable to someone. Whereas I think most men take that as, well, she just maybe doesn't like me. That she probably has some other guy that she likes. And I wish we would have this conversation about, like, if you're looking for someone like a high value character trait, like, we should be focusing more on those, because those lend to long-term relationship success, right? They're not a guarantee, but if you meet somebody who's like, no matter what, one of my core values is I don't lie, I don't cheat, but you have to give somebody time to prove that out.
I completely hear you. So it sounds like you're saying you've had an experience where, because of this principle, a guy interpreted that you weren't into him, and so maybe things ended or something like that. Or
even I think they can kind of read the vibe. They can read the room and see that I am into them, but they're just like, well, that's just not what I want. I don't want to wait for intimacy. I don't see the value in that. But in my mind, I'm thinking like, wow, if you got with somebody like me, you know that I keep this boundary with you, there's a high chance that you won't have to worry about infidelity with me. Again, is it 100% perfect? But I think if you're going to compare me to all the other options.
I hear you. I think there's something at play here. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. Above a certain age, guys are more relaxed about that, because a lot of the time, the reason guys care so much, not that guys don't care about infidelity with women, they do. But the main reason guys care about it so much is paternity fraud, right? They don't want a guy's worst nightmare.
It's more than that, but go ahead.
So, okay.
I'll let you cook.
Okay, sure. And you tell me what you think. A lot of men's biggest fear is to invest, raise, bond with children, later find out they're not his, right? And so if he's trying to build a family, or he's looking for a wife and a mother to his children, the infidelity side is hugely important, right? Or cues that she would be incredibly sexually loyal and conservative. If he's already done all of that, not saying that he would accept a woman who would cheat on him, because there's a respect thing that guys care about for sure, but it's not as important.
Yeah, I understand.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Your point is very valid. However, I will say that even when I was a youngster, I encountered situations like this.
Happens.
And while I was married, I have friends who were dating, who encountered the same thing. So I see that can be an element of it, but I don't think that is the driving factor. I just feel like people don't value, they just don't see where that could take them.
Do you know, I do get you. It's because guys are like, at this age, why?
Yeah, like, if you know, sad.
if we know that we're both attracted to each other, and when I say this age, I mean like kind of post family building age, so like 40s onwards, right?
Sure.
I think a lot of guys are like, look, if we know we're attracted to each other, right, and you like me, I like you, we enjoy spending time, why are we putting in these things. Now, here's the thing. If you're saying, it's different. If you're saying, I'm just not ready yet because you don't know if you want to share yourself with him, cool, that's different, right? Because that is a question on whether you actually like him. But if you're saying, oh, I want to, but I'm not going to, right, for like the next 2-3 months because of this principle or whatever, then for him, it's like, well, if he's not looking to build a family with you, right, it's not really a investment that he's looking to make, because it's not about building a family. It's about finding a companion who you have fun with.
Sure.
A lot of the time at this age.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that what you're saying, I'm tracking with you, but I feel like this conversation is more important than we believe, because even, let's just take age and everything out of it, because what I'm talking about happens at all ages, where, like I said, when I was even in my mid-20s, I had girlfriends who were dating. They're like, oh my goodness, these guys, you know, this is my standard, this is my boundary, and it's just hard to find somebody who will go along with this. And I think it's important to start having this conversation, because if we look at like the Black community as a whole, and I think it you know, I haven't studied very much what happens with, like, you know, Black British people and people from the diaspora who are not from the States, but in the United States, we have a lot of fixing to do in the Black community.
Yep.
One of our biggest issues is fatherless homes.
Yep.
And as you can see, that lends to basically making our community a huge underclass. And yes, there's been slavery, there's been discrimination, there's been Jim Crow, there's been a lot of things happening, but I'm a huge advocate of what we can fix within the community.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. And so if we look at the issue of fatherlessness, which is probably, again, I don't have any studies or statistics to refer to, but I personally have just seen how that tears down our communities. I lived in the inner city for a long time. I have family, you know, I have generations of fatherlessness in my line. You know, my grandmothers, great grandmothers, you know, their husbands left them or they had divorce or whatever. And I can just see that.
But were they not fathers though? Because if they were together, they may not be together, still married, but the fathers were still present, no?
You talking about in my generation?
Yeah.
No, in many cases, the fathers were outside the home. And so that's another thing. That's another kind of like dimension to, like, I think it is different. Like, I have a father, right? But I did not grow up with both parents in the home. And I still think, yes, he was present, he was around, but I think it's better to have him in the home. Like, the less brokenness you can have in a home, the better.
I agree.
So I'm going to try to land this plane. I don't want to keep talking, but the point, I think you know where I'm going, right? If we can teach young people from an early age this idea of what does real commitment look like, I think it starts with this idea that we foster self-control, because I worked in the inner city as a school teacher. And I had students, like young girls who were brilliant, you know, in different subjects. And because they wanted to get out of the house, they had bad home situations, they would literally have babies to get like government assistance and things like that.
Wow.
And so I feel like if we could like promote and cultivate like more healthy relationship dynamics, and a lot of times families break up because of some type of infidelity. And I'm not a man hater. I love men. I love, right?
Yes.
But if we look at it biologically, men are just more naturally built to not be, I hate saying this, their natural self does not lend to monogamy. It's something they have to work on. And it can't, but the thing is, there's really nothing culturally that says, men, you should work on this. In fact, it's encouraged and promoted, especially in the Black community, in our music, in our films and everything.
I agree.
Men go out, have sex with everything you can. So there's nothing,
but it's like that for the women as well, though.
Oh yeah. You're right. So I would say that, you know, sexual promiscuity is promoted by and large in our culture, and it just has devastating effects. So for me, it makes the most sense if we can teach our young men to have self-control, and young women, and come together when there is a commitment. For me, because I'm a Christian, ideally it's marriage, but maybe there's some other standards you can use. I haven't studied it out. For me, I think marriage. Now, is it 100% no one's going to cheat, family's not going to break up? No. But I think what we can do is risk mitigation.
Very true.
So that's my whole thing. I'm like, you guys, I've been through this. I was married for a long time, and the person I was with, I'm not going to go all into that, but I'll just say that, he was subject to those cultural influences that say self-control is not important. You don't have to. What is the purpose? What is the point?
I completely hear you. So one thing you said the main reason, or at least one of the main reasons why you were saying you want to advocate for this principle across generations is for family and children.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I meant when I said as an older man, he's not choosing you he's not looking for a wife, he's looking for a lover.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you see what I'm saying?
I understand. If we
So I'm
take
just
me
saying with
out
the
of
older generations.
if we take me out of the equation, like what I'm looking for is extremely rare, and I am not deceived or like disillusioned about that in any way, shape, or form.
So in regards to let's say sorting out the Black community, well, yes, I agree in terms of discipline, but when it comes to sex, it's women who have the power, not men.
Sure.
So if every woman said, I will not be intimate with a man unless we're in a committed relationship, it would fix 99% of the problems that you've just expressed.
I agree to a certain extent. However, I think it should be a multifaceted approach.
And I think men should have the discipline that if they get a woman pregnant, then he needs to take responsibility for the child, for sure.
Yes, and also I feel like too, in addition to because I think we have to deal with both, right? Women, keep your legs closed, look for a serious man. This is how you can tell. And then for young men, I think there also needs to be an element of how do you say? Because sometimes I feel like young men can see opportunities to maybe shield their motives in order to get what they want sexually out of a woman. And the ideal is that she has the mental fortitude to resist those advances. So I think we need both, because the reality of the matter is, if you're a young woman who you've never seen anyone married in your family, right? Not your grandparents, great-grandparents, it helps if we're all on the same page. That's what I'm saying.
I completely hear you. So I think in that scenario, it's actually what serves her, because some men are going to disguise their intentions to try get sexual access, right? But the way you combat that is by giving her the knowledge and tools to recognize a man who is serious versus a man who isn't, because I think a lot of women don't actually recognize the difference.
Of course.
Right?
I agree.
So I think it's kind of like saying, okay, well, in order to try and mitigate, against robberies, we need to teach these robbers not to rob. They're going to rob. It's about making the banks and buildings safer, right? Make sure that they can't do that. The same is, there are some women who will give the impression that they're interested in a guy, so a guy can give a lot, right? Where actually there's no interest. So it's on him to go, cool, is this woman actually into me?
Yeah.
Or is she just enjoying what I'm giving her? Because there's a really big difference, right? The other thing, and you might push back about with this, especially with the Black community in the West, we lack respect for male leadership in the Black community. There's not any respect for, I can think of a few maybe modern day, but in terms of male guidance and leadership, right? I feel like it's more of a matriarchy where the woman is supported, submitted to, and seen as higher, right? Leading community. And the irony is, I don't think many women actually want that. But I think a lot of our culture and narrative, yes, it's on men to step up, but also he can't lead if people are not willing to follow. Does that make sense? And so I think, because when I look at, and the reason I say that, because I just compare that to other communities, there's such a strong sense of respect and guidance from male leadership that I think in the Western Black household, there isn't. And where
do you think that comes from? I'm curious.
Why do I think that is? So many, a few different factors. And I'm comparing this because, I'm Nigerian, right? So in West African household, the head of the household was my father. Do you know what I mean? And my sitters, they wouldn't move out unless they're marrying a man. Do you know what I mean? They have very conservative traditional values in that sense. So that's the environment I've kind of grown up in, as well as the Western modern world. I think a couple of things contribute to that. I think one, I think feminism was a white woman's game, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. Not saying
And what
that.
is can we define what is feminism? Because I hear that. Like, what
Sure.
does
So
that
there's
mean to
different
you?
waves, isn't there? Right. So I guess what I mean is like I think in the most recent couple of decades, maybe 2 or 3 decades, obviously original feminism, women should have equal rights and opportunity. Absolutely. But I think a lot of the loudest voices that have represented feminism has been anti-male and has been, we don't need a man, right? You should go and do it yourself. And I think a lot of women, especially Black women, have been drinking that Kool-Aid. And I don't think it helps them with the men that they actually want. And I don't think it helps them attract the men that they want. And I also don't think it helps them keep the man that they want. Right.
So can I ask you a question? So
Yeah.
let's just make it scenario based. So say you are a single mother in the inner city of wherever, and you have 4 kids by a man, and he left or whatever. You guys didn't work out.
Okay.
What could a woman do in that situation if she doesn't do something herself?
So I want to just get some context for the situation.
Okay.
Are all 4 kids from the same man?
Let's just say yes. I don't know why that matters, but
It does matter.
Okay.
Were they married before they had children?
Yeah, let's say yeah.
Okay. So in 95% of instances, if you are married to a man and have children, he's not absent, he's a present father.
Okay.
Right? If you have kids with a man that you're not married to, because there are a lot of kids who are brought into this world where the father didn't want to be a father, right? But she wanted to have the child and he didn't.
But they both had sex together.
I know.
I'm not. But okay.
I agree. I know. But what I'm saying is that they were. Now I agree. A man should take responsibility if he does have a child. But what I'm saying is the reason they were having sex was to not build a family. It was for pleasure in that moment.
So let's talk about the woman who has 4 baby daddies, was not married. What is she doing?
She's cooked. No, I'm just joking.
Here's the thing. So I will say, in my situation, I have 2 daughters.
Yes.
And my hope is that they find a responsible, respectable, high quality, man, right? But in their case, do they not do anything because they're waiting for a man, or do they get education, have savings in case that doesn't work out? Like, what do you suggest if it's like this idea that I don't need a man? Like, what do women do in the interim? Because on one hand, it's like, I don't want no gold digging, hussy, taking my stuff. But then if you don't do if you do something, it's like, I don't care. I can date somebody who's a Starbucks barista. So what do men want on that? That's confusing to me.
I completely hear that. So the things that she does for her professional career, that's for her not to get a man. I think a lot of women use their career and profession as a barometer for the kind of man they feel that they should have. And that is not where your standard is. Because men, we don't look for that in you. Okay. So I'm not saying she shouldn't be independent, do her thing. Absolutely. That's for her own personal fulfillment. If it's about attracting a certain kind of guy, there's about developing yourself in the areas as a woman, right? Where those things attract that kind of man, right? So physique, presentability, class, emotional control, right? Femininity, right? So moving in a way that can be sexy but classy, right? Knowing how to date in a way that obviously clearly demonstrates, this is the kind of woman to invest in long term, because that's what men are looking for, right? So it's really about knowing how to recognize a good quality man, right? And it's not the things that the media tells you, right? It's not just a guy with a nice smile, abs and grills and tats.
What is a good quality man? Tell me about that. What would you say?
I would say it's a principled man who takes responsibility.
Okay.
And he is striving for certain goals in his life.
Okay.
That's what I would say, right?
So do you have sisters or?
I have 2 younger sisters.
So do you ever give them dating advice?
100%.
Oh, okay. So
Absolutely.
that's what when you tell them, like, you're looking for a high value man, these are the things that you're looking for. And do they ever give you feedback? Like, I'm dating this guy and or I don't know what their ages are, if they're
Absolutely.
older.
So my sister's one's 27, the other one's 21. She's at uni, so we don't we don't talk as much about guys. But the other one for sure, I've had a hand in the men that she has, or the man that she's with,
I love
for
that.
sure, for sure.
What are some challenges she's presented, or like has she expressed like, like I'm just like curious about negative experiences, and like if you were guiding her and you like found out about how a guy was moving, you'd be like, no, that guy is whatever.
Which I've done.
Yeah. Give me some. I'm just curious to know, like, what are some examples she's presented without, if you don't want to violate her privacy, however you can.
Sure. So for examples, maybe there was a situation where a guy was trying to, come back to hers like on the first date. Maybe it's, for example, like a guy was talking a lot, like kind of pen pal territory, but it didn't actually lead anywhere, right? Maybe, for example, I'm just saying general examples as well.
Yeah, sure.
Where like, I don't know, maybe it's like a guy's like hot and cold, right? So it's really about, it's about showing qualities in a man that you would want to be part of your household. And I think, because here's the thing, with my family in particular, like we were a very close family, had a very good relationship with both my parents, had a very strong relationship with my father, my sisters as well. And so they've seen arguably what a good quality man is. And so naturally, those are the qualities that they look for in a man, which doesn't pertain to a lot of what we see that's promoted in Black culture. Sure. In the Western Black culture. Yeah. So like, I'll be honest, like they look at that and be like, yeah, cool, that's fun, hip hop, that's all good, but you wouldn't catch me dead there. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's partly about recognizing the right qualities to choose from, and then recognizing, if he's genuinely intentional. Sure.
Because men they can have all the right things, but if they're just not interested, then it really doesn't matter.
That is also true.
So what I see mostly, and
go for it.
What I see a lot, because I am older, seasoned, in my friend groups and just observing the world, I feel like a lot of relationships don't work out. The smoke screen is like, we grew apart, we had different ways of doing things, but I think a lot of it comes down to like one or more, it's infidelity. I think that's what breaks up households and marriages. And they might say finances, but usually that happens because there are outside relationships and things like that. So that is probably one of the main things that I try to mitigate for. Because I think if someone cannot be faithful to you, then what is the point? Like, how are you going to have a relationship and you can't trust this person to be faithful to you?
I understand. So I don't disagree with you, but do you think that infidelity is new?
No.
So have there been marriages that have stayed together because even when infidelity has happened?
Absolutely. So
is the question about how do we get past infidelity?
I think for me, the idea is, and it's not just infidelity. Well, I'll deal with that in another, maybe if we have more time, but
yeah, go for it.
So how do you get past it?
Well, I'm saying is the question.
Oh, how to prevent it?
Is the question, and I'm not saying there's any right or wrong. Right? Yeah. I'm not saying if there's been infidelity, you should absolutely work through it. If there has been, you should definitely leave. But is the question more about how do we work through infidelity in our relationships if we want to be with that person long term, as opposed to, okay, it's happened. I'm just posing the question, as opposed to, okay, this has happened, I'm out, without any kind of, I guess, conversation, seeing why it happened. Because, and it's funny, I say all this, and I think guys do have a lot harsher standards with that. Yeah. And I'm biased, I can understand why, but because women and men, they cheat at the same rate now. So the rate that men have cheated at over the past 50 years has stayed more or less the same, but women has actually increased, apparently. Okay. Those are the stats, apparently.
Okay. I have some ideas about that, but.
Okay.
And I want to, let me reframe this, because I don't want to come off as like, because again, people have said this to me, like, you're just bitter, things didn't work out for you, and that's all you're concerned about. But
I don't get that vibe from you.
My major concern, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
We'll see what the audience says. But I guess my overarching concern is about really finding someone who will stick with you through the hard times. And then there's this other element that if you end up dealing with somebody who does not have self-control in certain areas, that can lend to other issues, right? So that can spill into, they could become a gambler, they could become a hothead at their job and they lose their job all the time. So I guess I want to focus more mainly on self-control and in every area, sexual self-control, mental health, like all of that. Because what I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I've seen, and this is going to take a little bit of dark turn,
Go for it.
but I want to mention it because I don't think people think about this.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen many women that in the prior generation that there's this idea of divorce is bad, wrong, whatever, even if a man cheats. And there are a lot of instances where women will stay with chronic cheaters
Mm-hmm.
and they give them this runway to just be a man that's totally out of control. The respect drops in the relationship, which can lead to violence. That's an outcome. And then if they don't have self-control, with, they're married and everything, is this someone you want your grandchildren around? That's what I'll say. And I've heard of many bad situations,
Mm-hmm.
right, that happen with that. So for me, sexual self-control is at the top of the list because I, as a Christian, I'm in the church, prayer ministry, all that. And I actually deal with a lot of families that have ruptures and issues because of infidelity, sex abuse, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really important that as a family, we filter out these things. Is it going to be 100%? Nothing bad will happen? No. But I feel like if we can get that element of our character together, that can just only be better for our families. Does that make sense? Do you see where I'm going with that? And I hate to get because people be like, not every man who cheats is going to molest a grandchild. No,
I mean, yeah, that's true.
But as someone who I have worked with these people, I've seen it in the schools, in the prayer ministry. It's something that seeps into families and it's really horrific. And so I think there's a much longer term perspective that we need to see.
I hear you. I think because of your line of work, if I may say, I think there's a bit of a selection bias because your line of work, you're going to be working with those individuals, but I don't think the majority of people who maybe cheat on their partner, they turn into these abusive or like child abusive or whatever. Like I don't think that's the case because men and women cheat at the same rate now, right? So here's a question I want to pose to you, and I'm not saying we should do this, but you kind of said earlier that you kind of maybe acknowledge or understand that maybe men are not as monogamous, right? Maybe in comparison.
By nature, I think it's harder. I'll say this. By nature, it's harder for them to be monogamous. That's
Right.
what I think.
So here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know that the way a man shows that he's intentional or serious about you isn't by who he doesn't have sex with, right? It's about how he invests in you.
Okay, I don't know if I believe with that. I believe in that, but whatever. Or I agree with that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, okay. So how do you see a man actually like investing in you? How can you tell if a guy is actually serious about you? Is it by him sleeping with you?
No, that's not my barometer. That's not how I would gauge that. So I
Mhm.
think someone who they make plans and they move forward with
Mhm.
their plans, they say I'm going to do this, they keep their word and they actually do things they say they're going to do.
Sure.
When it comes to me.
For sure. So hypothetically speaking, let's say there's a guy who is showing up for you in that way,
Mm-hmm.
but then you find out that he slept with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Is he intentional about you or intentional about her?
That person would not be ideal for me because I feel like when you're being intentional, you're, cutting off your other options.
I understand. I know you're saying what your preference is and what you want, but I'm saying, who do you think he's being more intentional with? You, who he's doing those things for, or the girl he just had that one night with?
This is a trick question.
It's not. I'm genuinely asking.
He's doing the thing. Well, he's being intentional, but what is the end of his intentions? Right? Because you can be. I've seen men do this. They will go out, do all the things, put it because they have different categories of women. This is the woman they want to keep for the long term, and then they're going to have their side dishes.
Okay,
So,
I get you, but you're not answering the question. Who is he taking? Who is he intentional in that scenario?
He's intentional with me, but his intentions are bad.
With you?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, actually, this is exactly my story. Like, I had somebody who I got married, I got on this health insurance, all the things.
I'm not talking you're married. I'm just talking you're dating. I'm saying you're
Well,
dating.
someone I'm dating, I still would say they're being intentional, but with bad intentions.
Why?
Well, because I'm aware that there is this dynamic where a man will have his main, and this is the person he takes the family pictures with. This is the person. This is that
But
person.
we're talking about dating though. You can't. Are you? So hold on. I'm gonna ask a question. Are you saying if a man is taking you out on dates, let's say you've been dating for a month or two, right? And he's showing up in this way.
Yes.
Are you saying that what if he ended up sleeping with somebody else? Let's say within 2 weeks after you guys went on a first date. Are you saying he has bad intentions with you?
I would say maybe he has good intentions, but it doesn't work for me. That scenario wouldn't work for me.
If you're loving this episode and these kinds of conversations, then I want to give you something. We recently launched the Kits Angels community. This is a sisterhood for women who are tired of what the dating scene has given them and are ready to take their love lives to the next level. It's a space for you as a woman to not be alone in your journey to love, where we learn, talk, and share our experiences as part of a strong sisterhood, with some leadership and guidance from yours truly, of course. Not to mention never before seen videos from me on how I've led dozens of women to meeting great men. And so as a thank you for watching this episode, I'm giving you a month's membership completely complimentary on me. Just click the Kits Angels link below, and when you join the group, message me the code phrase Angels Podcast and I will pay for your membership. Now back to the episode.
I understand it's a preference, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about what his intentions are. The reason I'm bringing this up is
Yes,
because
I'm very.
The reason
what are
I-
we getting at?
the reason I'm bringing this up is because you talk about, for example, that men are maybe wired to not be as monogamous.
Yes.
Right? And you're saying about trying to mitigate against a man ever cheating. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So then this is why I posed a question to you earlier. If we can accept that a man sleeping with someone else isn't a reflection on his seriousness or intention, which we know, right? Because men don't invest by who they sleep with. If we accept that, okay, out of 50 years, for example, that might happen. It's not guaranteed. I'm not saying definitely will, definitely it won't. That it might happen. Can you choose to build a relationship past that if you're both intentional to do that?
For me personally, no.
Okay. Well, if let's say, for example, I'm going to say, let's say, for example, then,
Yeah.
let's say 99% of people are like that with you, right? As in like, cool, if there's any infidelity, right? And even if both people want to work on it, it's not going to happen.
Yes, that's okay.
You're not going to have anything lasting longer than 10, 15, 20 years. It's not going to happen.
Well, let's just rewind. So this person who is dating me, but he's sleeping with another woman, was this like something, is this his lifestyle? Like he just sleeps with multiple women, or
So
I guess I'm just trying to understand, because this is a lot of like mental
Sure.
labor for me.
What I'm trying to express is that in marriages throughout time, part of them lasting as long as they have is knowing how to work through when those things have happened.
So you're saying relationships are not going to last because if you can't take a little dabble of infidelity, it's just going to be hard.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Don't get your expectations up too high.
So what I was saying is that part of marriages lasting the test of time, always historically, has been the ability and willingness to work through infidelity, because infidelity is not new. Right.
So can I? Oh, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, and that's not me making a judgment that if infidelity happens, you should stay. If infidelity doesn't happen, does happen, you should go. But it's the capability and the willingness of both parties to work through that, because infidelity has always happened within marriages.
Sure.
Right.
Not all marriages.
No, but not all marriages. But I'm saying, well, I mean, we never know, right? Not all marriages. But
you're a little bit of a pessimist. Okay.
I'm not a pessimist, but I think I'm just being honest in the fact that human beings are flawed. They're not perfect, and people can make mistakes. Now, whether you decide whether that mistake is a deal breaker or not for you, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, when it comes to infidelity specifically, and it sounds like you're expressing the woman's perspective on the man cheating, right? But of course, women can cheat as well. But working through infidelity has always been one of the things that marriages have had to work through historically. Same with finances. Same with
And I guess
whatever.
my question would be, what is the quality of the marriage after an infidelity event? I don't have the answer to that, but I'll say the anecdotal. I have no stats, nothing to back this up, but in observation mode, friends, family, right? I have seen marriages survive that.
Sure.
However, the other thing that I see is the quality is typically very poor, where the people, number one, they usually don't like each other very much. They may sleep in separate rooms. The marriage survives, but there is a lot of times the presence of like resentment, maybe one or both parties are in it just because it's like it's too expensive to get divorced. Like, why will we do all that? So
you just stay together because it's too expensive. That's a terrible way to stay together.
No, people do it all. There's a joke. I don't know if you guys have the same joke, but in the States, it's like Black people don't get divorced, like because they just don't.
They do though.
They do.
They have the highest rates of divorce.
They do, but it's a joke. Like when they split up, they just split up. Like they
I see.
live
They
apart,
don't-
like literally 30, 40 years. They
see.
haven't been together in the same household, but they just don't want to do the paperwork. And I've encountered these people.
Oh,
Again,
I
I
see
have
what
no
you're
stats. I have nothing. This is just my observation. So yes, marriages can survive infidelity, but I will also say another observation. You guys argue in the comments if you want, is that for me, infidelity is usually not like, oh, it was a mistake, I slipped up. Usually that is not the beginning of like something wrong with the relationship or the way that someone sees you. It's usually the end. It's usually the manifestation of a long-term idea about your partner and what, how you want to move in life. So I feel like once it's gotten to that point, that is like a really deep form of disrespect.
I hear you. I'll be honest. I think it depends on the person.
Yeah, of course it depends.
Sometimes
Yes.
the cheating is something in the moment and somebody made a reckless decision. Sometimes it is a symptom
There's
of
too much planning that goes into that if you're married with kids and all that.
Well,
We're casually dating,
depends.
maybe.
Depends on the situation, but I guess what I mean is, and sometimes it can be a symptom of a deeper problem in the relationship, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes cheating, infidelity is a symptom, not the problem, right? It's a symptom of, not saying it's
Sure.
not a problem, but so I'm going to steal this from Esther Perel because I've read both her books, couples therapist. She's incredible. And one thing that she says when she's working with couples who have had infidelity is that the old relationship is done. You're now building a new one, right? So it's going to be different,
Yeah.
right? Can you rebuild? Yes, you can.
Mhm.
Because, and I say this because I had a very black and white take on infidelity in terms of, cool, if anybody ever cheats, right, you're heartless, you're selfish, you're an evil person, right? And then I read her book on infidelity from like the 50 case examples she gives in that book. And it really changed my perspective on it, right? And how it can happen, whatever. Now, personally for me, if I'm looking to build a family with a woman and she cheats me in a relationship, that I would be done because, I think about, I want the kids to be mine and that's the underlying fear. If I was older, I'd had a family and something had happened and I'm just looking for a lover, maybe I'd be a little bit more, would I? I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know if I'd be a bit more forgiving on that, but at least at this point in my life, because it'd be for a family, is something that would be a non-negotiable and absolutely crucial. But the reason I'm raising this is because infidelity is something that people can work through. And it's something that typically that marriages had. And I think we also need to acknowledge that it is so much, temptation today is not the same like it was before. What we're actually seeing is how human beings do or don't handle temptation. Because a lot of the reason why people didn't cheat back in the day is because there wasn't a temptation or opportunity to, right? But there's a lot more temptation opportunity to today.
How do we know people didn't cheat that much back in the day?
Well, because we didn't have as much access. So for example, with social media, with technology in terms of travel and everything, you can hide back in the day, if there was if you're in your village, everybody knew each other. That
doesn't stop anything.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is the likelihood of you cheating outside of the village or town is much less. But now you can do that with anyone. You can do that anywhere.
Well, like you just said earlier, infidelity has always been around. And I think someone who has that character trait, that they're just not faithful, whether it's with friends, whatever. I think that's just that's a character trait, and that can happen in the bush of wherever back in the 1850s, or that can happen now.
So let me ask you a hypothetical question. Let's say you have a couple that have been together for 3-4 years, and for one of let's say for one of them, let's say it's the guy, right? Because I guess we're talking about guys. Let's say that he loses a family member, someone very close to him. And then let's say him and his partner are going through a tough time. There's somebody at his work who they'd always been good friends, etc. She was there for him. And then one night at a Christmas party, one thing led to another, right? And it's because he's in the grief of losing this family member, etc. Doesn't excuse it. Would you say that, okay, him cheating, that's a character flaw in him that he's always had?
I would.
Really?
Yeah, because again, if you're a principled person, no matter what happens in your life, you make decisions already ahead of time.
I have a question to ask you. Do you think you could ever kill a person?
No, but I'm sure there's circumstances where that would work if it's like self-defense or something. But if I'm just mad at someone who took my latte at Starbucks, no, I could never do that.
So you say principle, you would never kill a person outside of self-defense?
Yeah, that's the only scenario I can think of where I would do that.
Okay. So, because you have a daughter, if somebody did the worst things to your daughter and her life,
I would probably be tempted to do that, but I would like to think in that moment that I still wouldn't do it.
Why would you be tempted?
Well, because harm has come to my loved one. So temptations do exist, but we don't have to give into all of them.
I agree with you. What I'm trying to express is that's a specific circumstance and situation where you were tempted to do something that would go against your principle.
Sure.
Right. So what I'm saying is we live in a day and age with technology. I gave the scenario with that guy, like he's grieving, this woman was there for him at work, is where people can be given temptation that goes against a principle they stand by based on the circumstances.
Sure.
Now, I agree with you. Whether they choose to do that or not is definitely down to them. But what I'm saying is, it's kind of, do you know what it's like? It's kind of like saying the average guy going like, oh, like I've never cheated before. And then we look at Tiger Woods and be like, he's cheated, what a scumbag. It's like, bro, you don't have the options and temptations Tiger Woods has. Let's keep it real.
You know what? There was a podcast.
Because if most guys did, I think a lot of guys would fail that test. I'm going to be honest.
Not necessarily. Like,
not all. I think a lot
there's
would.
a podcast. I can't remember the guy's name. He was like a minister or something. He was on with Cam Newton, and Cam Newton tried to posit the same argument. Look at where I am in life. I have all these options, and the guy kind of was like, "Well, think about the buff janitor in the school. You know, he does what he's supposed to do. He is seen as reliable. He shows up. He's kind. He's surrounded by teachers and women, parents. So
yeah, but they're not checking for him though.
No, listen, let me tell you something.
Not in the same way.
People think that Tyrone, the bus driver, doesn't have options, but he does.
No one's.
He really does.
No one's saying that they don't have options, but the options they have is incomparable. It's not even close. It's not even close.
But I would say every day we are all faced with something, and let's just take dating off the table. It could be to scam somebody, we all have options to do a lot of things that we don't have to do.
That's not what temptation is though.
What?
Having an option to do something isn't the same. So like you have an option to scam people, right? But like, do you have anything in place that, press this button, I can scam them?
100%. I have avenues, I have ways, I have means.
If you're going to scam someone fraud, like you have to work at that. Whereas temptation is something that, that's in front of you for you to take right now.
I would argue that you still have to work in temptation too. Because think about the coworker example, right? So there are a lot of checkpoints you have to pass to get close with a coworker. Yeah,
but if you're a celebrity, there aren't.
Well, again, this just comes down to we all have different temptations in every environment, in every way. Like I don't think it's this is where we're going to agree to disagree. There are lots of things that we can do, and although your viewers may not believe I'm not going to say people are banging down my door. Am I
You
Nicki
have
Minaj,
options.
Beyonce, whatever?
Sure.
But I've had legitimate offers for people to be like, oh, if you need some place to stay, I've been operating as a single mom with a little support. And so and I know people who take advantage of their options. So I'm not making this up. Some older than me. So there are things that I could do to make my life easier. And the opportunities come to me often. I could do these things, but because those are things I don't want to do because I want to keep my character and my integrity intact, I don't take advantage of that because I've already made decisions saying I don't want to do that. If I was Nicki Minaj, would my life look different? I don't know, I guess. But I think that's a cop-out to say like people who have power and influence, they just have more things to deal with. So they get a pass at
So
having
this is what I'm
worse
saying.
character.
So this is what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying it's a pass, but it's not the same. The level of discipline it takes for someone in Chris Brown's position to be faithful to sexually exclusive, be faithful to one woman, is incomparable to the janitor who lives at the school.
Well, in
who works at the school. Like the comparison it's not even close. So to say that, okay, well,
I don't agree.
We can't say, right? We can't say, okay, well, because he's never ever cheated, whatever, he must be a better person than Chris Breezy over here.
We're not
right?
gonna say better person. We'll just say someone who values their integrity more because if
It's not
I
been
were
tested,
if I were Nicki Minaj or Beyonce and I had a barrage of men coming at me, but you know what I do? I'd actually just leave the career because my integrity and my character is more important than all that stuff.
But women in general always have options. They don't have to be a superstar to have men throw in sexual opportunities, romantic opportunities, right? That's just what you have as a woman. What the temptation would be, it'd be like having a man wanting to provide for you or like send you money, right? I'll pay for your rent or I'll pay for this, whatever. That's more of an equivalent temptation. But for guys, like you're saying about like the co-worker, right? Like, there's certain checkpoints, like you talk to them, you build a relationship, you talk, all of that stuff. I'm just going to use his name again. If you're Chris Brown, it's literally like women at your stage door saying, I'm ready, let's go. There's no checkpoints.
Well, then at what point do you do some inventory as a man and be like, is having this career worth my soul?
Well, that depends on what you believe. Because
I think there's something that if you...
are you really giving your soul if you're sleeping with multiple women that, a lot of guys do? Or if you're sleeping with multiple men, I guess?
So... I'm glad you bring that up because I think there is something to be said about when you exchange sexual energy with someone, it connects you in a way that doing other things wouldn't. So I think there is a type of exchange of energy that can lead to certain type of contamination spiritually. Just think about it, if you're a woman, if you see a woman who slept with multiple men, you can look at her and see. You can, as a man, without being Christian, without being, ooh, you can look at a woman and be like, I know what she's about. But that happens over time because she has exchanged her energy with men over and over and over again. And that changes people. And the same thing happens to men.
So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So one, unless somebody prescribes to that same religious value system, then I don't know. I don't think, as long as they're being honest and transparent, I don't think them being multiple people is a reflection on them bad character. But what I'd say is for women, if they've had quite a promiscuous past and guys can see that, I don't think it's the energy exchange, it's the energy she carries. Because what guys notice is that there's a correlation between her masculine exterior to protect herself compared to her level of exposure to promiscuous men and men that she felt didn't treat her right.
Sure. I mean, you could definitely argue that, but I also think there's something that you can see, and it's not necessarily masculine energy. It's just the way she carries herself. And a lot of men, sometimes based on that, it depends on what their goals are, but they may see that and be like, I'm going to pass. Like, she's dealing with some issues that's just not going to work for me. The same thing does happen with men, but I think it's a little more, and it manifests in different ways. And what I've noticed is that it could, men who, maybe they have a sordid sexual past, their appearance changes in certain ways, their attitude, the way they move, but I think it's more culturally acceptable. We would call it swag, and that makes them more attractive to women. But I think it could be damaging to both. You got to sit down and think about, like, if I'm going to be someone that sleeps with multiple people, you have, I think, again, even if you're not religious or whatever, you have to recognize that it has some type of effect on you.
I actually agree with you. I think it does have an effect on you, whether you're a man or woman. I think the effect is different.
Yeah, it's different. It manifests in different ways.
Sure,
it's the same effect, but I think it manifests in different ways, and the level of cultural acceptability is different.
That is true, but I think part of that is, and maybe I'm biased, so feel free to tell me what you think, but I think for men, it's not as much of a detriment compared to women, because men can disassociate their emotions from sex very easily, whereas a lot of the time for a lot of women, they struggle to do that. And if a woman does do that, there's always exceptions to the rule, like, you know, you've got your Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blues, but for a lot of women that I've spoken to, if they've been very promiscuous, it's because they were trying to use sex to find love.
Sure.
Or they're operating from a broken place in terms of trying to look for validation, and that was the only thing where they could feel something. Whereas for guys, usually if they're being promiscuous, they're like, because I enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? A lot of guys express that. Some guys, it's like they're looking for validation.
Yeah.
They're addicted to that. That is true. But I see more of a negative impact on women in comparison to men if they've indulged in that behavior.
Yeah, because I think culturally that's what we're trained to see. Whereas now, again, as someone who's older, I can weigh in on encountering men who are, you know, they're open, like, you know, I've been with all the hoes or whatever, you know.
Guys, we can't be just exposing ourselves like that. Yeah, guys, I've been with all the hoes. Like, what are you doing?
Of course, I'm exaggerating, but when I'm listening to it, that's how it sounds to me. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Of course, they're like a little more, they have more tact when they say that, but you can put two and two together and figure out, okay, this guy is a player from the Himalayas. And for me, when I encounter that kind of guy, he knows how to move with the women, say the right things. It's kind of like this slickster energy that I can see a mile away. And I'm just personally not interested, because I feel like they treat women, because women are commoditized to them. They treat women a certain way. They don't value women. They can be callous emotionally. I think as they get older, the chances of them not getting into a relationship and you know, they say die alone, you whatever, like just not having close friends and family, because they have really commoditized not just women, but just people in their life, whether it's an ex-wife, it's the kids they have. And I think that's dangerous too. But you know, I think we're really forgiving too towards our men, where you will see kids they've left, they'll come back into his life and visit him at the nursing home and all that stuff. So he may have a little more freedom to operate that way. And like I said, if he has developed this gift of gab where he can be around women easily, then he can keep going that way and it could be enjoyable. But I think there is a cost to his soul.
I guess that's a you know, a religious principle in that sense. I guess what I'd like to, do you see a differentiation between a guy who's like just sleeping with multiple women all the time, and a guy who's just had a lot of experience with women, but he's had connection with them?
I think they're one and the same. To me, they're the same guy.
Okay.
They're the same guy.
Interesting. Would you say the same about women as well? So if you have one woman who's maybe, you know, she had a period where she was, you know, being physical with multiple men, and then you have another woman where she's had, you know, relationships with multiple men throughout the 20 years, would you say that's the same?
Yeah, I think they're the same. But I feel like you use different wording for them, because with the man, he didn't have a period, and the woman, she just had a period.
I said that he did have you know, he's sleeping with multiple women versus a man who's had experience with one-to-one connections with women. So I'm using a woman, she's had multiple men, or she's had experiences with one-to-one with men. I said relationships throughout, you know, 10, 15, 20 years. Okay. Because
the phrasing sounded a little bit different, but I will say, can you be someone who's gone through a period of promiscuity and you're all over the place and then pull yourself back in? Yes. I'm not sure if that's what you're saying, but if that's what you're saying, then yes, you can always, like, you can have been an alcoholic and you stop drinking.
Sorry. Okay. Let me be more specific.
Yeah.
You have a guy, there was a year when he was like promiscuous, and let's say he slept with, I don't know, 10 women in that year. Okay.
That's one woman, about a woman a month.
Yeah, just under. Yeah, 0.8 women per month. And then let's say you've got another guy who's been in like 1-year relationships with women for over 10 years. So they're both slept with the same amount of people.
Yeah.
But different scenarios, dynamics. Is
think-
that the same to you?
Yeah, men and women, yes, to me. Because
That's
you
the
don't have
same.
a...
No, I disagree entirely.
For me, in that situation, there's still no discretion about who you give your body to, whether it's for a year or a week or a day. I feel like that is important for...
So a relationship doesn't count as discretion to you?
Well, what are we saying? If you can have 1-year relationships for 10 years, to me, that's not a you have 1-year relationship to, like, what does that even mean? I don't...
So like you're seeing that one person, but each time it's lasted, because people actually do this, right? A lot of people, they have relationships and they last between 12 to 24 months and then they break up, and then the next relationship, it lasts around 2 years. And it's like, that's actually quite a common thing.
Okay.
So I'm saying that you're saying that a guy having...
To me, it's the same.
To you, it's the same.
To me, it's the same, because even how you're characterizing a relationship, that really doesn't mean anything, because you can just still jump. The idea here is you're jumping from person to person, whether or not you put terms on it or not.
So for you, dating, like going on a date or having a weekend with someone, having a relationship with them is the same thing.
Dating, going on a relation. I think intimacy means a relationship to me. That's what that means. And then maybe exclusivity. That's how I would define that.
Well, that's what I meant. So like, because in one scenario, he's having exclusivity connections and the other one he isn't, but you're saying that's the same to you.
I think it boils down to the same. Yes, we can use like these little guardrails to be like, oh, it's a relationship, so you get a pass. But the idea to me is what is the discretion that you have to filter people out for like you're just going to be intimate with anyone who comes along, as long as it's a year, 24 hours, 24 months or whatever. That's weird to me. I just don't move like that. I literally do not understand.
No, I understand. I understand.
I'm 6 years single. I've not had a single relationship, so I'm probably not the best person to ask about that.
No, that's why I'm intrigued by your opinion on it, perspective. Okay, so hypothetically, and this, this is a tough question. Hypothetically, if let's say you have a woman, let's say one woman, she's like, what's a promiscuous number for you, for an individual, for man and woman? What's a promiscuous number in terms of number of sexual partners they've had
in lifetime or something?
Well, just like in general, like if a guy, like, what do you think? Okay,
like 100. I don't know. I don't 20, 30. I don't know. It depends on how old you are. How many?
Why does it depend on how old you are?
Because the older you are, the more partners you could have potentially. If you're someone who just believes like you could just have many relationships and many sexual partners, the older you are, the more you'd have, right? Because your life progresses.
Yeah, but I guess I feel like that goes against what you said.
What do you mean?
As in, like, because you were saying about how, because when I said the one guy, he'd had 10 partners in a year. When I said about the other guy, he had 10 partners over 10 years, and you said that's the same.
Yeah, to me.
Yeah. So, but now you're saying, if they're older and they have more partners, it's not the same. You say that's different.
No, I'm just saying, because we're trying to define promiscuity.
Well, I'm asking, but
so I don't really have a context for that. I don't.
So because when I said the 10 partners,
this is why this is hard for me, because I personally, as you can see, I'm a Christian, so I really don't operate in that world. For me, relationship is someone you marry and have sex with. That's my only context and that's what I think about that.
So my question for you is this: is the woman who's had, let's say she's had 2-year relationships with guys over the course of 30 years, is that the same woman who's slept with guys, like 20 guys in the space of a year?
I think if the mentality is, I am going to sleep with someone, whether it's in a relationship or get gang banged on a night.
No. Like, I'm saying like she's only ever been intimate with guys that she's had relationships with.
Yes.
But she's had, let's say, 10 to 12 guys over the course of 20 years.
Yeah.
Or another one who she's intimate with guys, right? Not in a relationship, but within a year span.
There's this semblance of boundaries and standards with the relationship that may not exist in the person who could maybe seen as promiscuous, right?
I'm just asking you, are they the same to you?
For me, again, because I'm a Christian, I come from a Christian background, I just feel like for me, it's the same, but you can... You can put all these pretty little bows on it and be like, well, no, that doesn't count.
I think that's so different, man. I think being intimate with someone who you have a relationship with that you think there's future with compared to someone that you're just doing it casually, I don't think they're promiscuous. I don't think they're even in the same league.
But why would you have like 5 relationships in 10 years? That's and
mean,
then is it
we
really
don't know.
relationship, or are these just like really long situationships? Because like
Well, a relationship is you're committed, right? You're exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's different.
But then you're not really committed and exclusive if they keep ending after 2 years or 18 months or whatever.
Well, I think what it demonstrates is, okay, one may demonstrate you're not picking the right partner for yourself long term, but the other one demonstrates you don't even have standards for who you're intimate with. I think the one that you have a relationship
I think
with,
they're the same.
so the one that's, if they says, oh, I'm only going to be intimate with someone I'm in a relationship with, that is the same as the girl who's like, nah, we sleep together on the weekend. It is what it is.
Well, I guess my question is like, how do you find 10 boyfriends in the span of 10 years?
Well, I said over the course of like 20 years, to be fair.
Okay, that's still, it's the same thing in a more expanded timeline, and we can put like, again, prettier language around it, but I think it's rooted in the same thing. Like, to get into a relationship, your standard should be somewhat high, and now you're doing it every 2 years. That to me sounds like the same thing. You're just maybe slower in developing it. Because how do you keep developing intimacy with someone every 2 years?
So I guess I would say that, yeah, they're obviously not perfect. I would say they don't know how to choose someone for long term, right? They don't know how to choose a right kind of long term partner. But I wouldn't say they were promiscuous. Is you treat sex very casually, and I wouldn't say if someone only is intimate with someone that they're in a relationship with, but it's only been relationships, I wouldn't say they treat sex as casually as the person who's done 10, 15 people in the same of a year.
Tomato, like, but it's still, to me, it's still casual. It's still the
unless
same.
It's married. Okay, so for you, unless you're married, it's casual.
Yeah, and again, I think that's kind of like what has our people, I don't know if you guys are included in that, but in the States for sure, I feel like that is kind of the deception, is that as women, we can be like, well, it's different because, it's a 1 year relationship, a 2 year relationship, when ideally, if you're looking to build long-term relationships, which I bring this up a lot, it's important because that's actually how we build long-term wealth.
I don't disagree.
Most billionaires and millionaires, the stats say that they're married, they have long-term relationships, right? So I think
you don't build wealth because you're married.
I think it could be something that helps.
Especially if you get a divorce and she cleans you out. You ain't building no wealth there.
Well, again, this is the whole conversation, is how do we build healthier individuals to come into healthier relationships, to build healthier marriages, families, and community. So the building block of a healthy community that can withstand police brutality, discrimination, right? So I don't want people to think I'm just saying this because I want some man to be faithful to me and give me all his money. That would be nice. But at the end of the day, what we want is a strong Black community. And where does that start? With strong Black people who we have standards and boundaries about what we involve ourselves with.
I agree.
That's the basis of this conversation for me.
I agree. I think ultimately what it comes down to is each person taking accountability for their own results and not blaming anybody else.
Yeah, for sure.
Everyone has agency over their lives, and I think it's okay. Well, if I'm a guy and I'm not meeting or attracting the kind of women I want, it's not because there's a problem with all the women. It's because I'm either not the kind of guy who can attract that person yet, or I'm not choosing for the right qualities, right?
There you go.
And
Beautiful
I would say
summary.
100%. But I'd also say for the women as well. So if you're a woman and you're saying, I'm not meeting the kind of men that I want, they're not treating me right, I'd be like, well, the accountability is on you. Are you the kind of woman that can attract the man you're looking for? And are you choosing for the right qualities and dating in a way that leads that way, right? So, because I think there's a lot of finger pointing in these kind of conversations about the Black community, why it's in disarray, who's responsible for what.
Sure.
And I think ultimately it's, and maybe I'm biased, I do think we're a lot better at pointing out when men could have done better. But I think,
I think it depends on your algorithm.
Maybe. I guess maybe it is. Maybe. But I mean,
you said men are supposed to be the leaders though, right? So I think if change was going to happen, would we have to have a little bit more change on the side of the male headship, or no?
So I agree that I think it is on men to make the first move in the right direction, but ultimately you can't lead someone who doesn't want to follow. And I think one thing that we have to be honest about is there's this common trope of, men are told to do the right thing, women are told to do what's right for you, right? And we have, honestly, if I'm going to be honest, if we're going to have this intention about coming together for a higher purpose, it's no, you have to do the right thing, period. So for example, I would say, if you would leave a marriage because you're unhappy, then you shouldn't get married. Because marriage isn't about happiness, it's about duty, commitment, and responsibility.
Well, let me just give you a scenario. If a woman leaves a marriage because she's unhappy, what if the things that were contributing to her unhappiness were actually like dangerous? Like
give me an example.
Like physical violence, infidelity, which opens up to like STDs and all that, things like that. What if that was actually the cause of the infidelity? And I'll just say really quick why I'm saying this, because I feel like there is that narrative like women just get divorced because they're unhappy, which I'm sure that does happen. But also for a woman to leave a man with kids and she's going to have to be the primary, that the situation could have potentially been really, really hard. Who wants to be a single mother? And then one last thing. A lot of times women are vague because you cannot go into detail because you have kids with this person. So a lot of times I will just say in my situation, which I'm not going to go into the details, I do keep it at, we just saw different ways to be married. And that's it. But there is a backstory that it was very needful. And I feel like a lot of women have to say things like this, and it may not just be I'm unhappy. So I would challenge that idea of like, is that why most people are getting divorced?
I didn't say that's why, but I'm just using that example.
But I just want to mention that because I feel like that is a common narrative, and I want people to hear that even if you don't think that way.
That's fair. So when it comes to, let's say, abuse, okay, first off, when there's been abuse in a relationship from a partner, there's been history of that from that said individual. It doesn't happen where somebody was really good for 5-10 years and then suddenly they just start beating on their partner.
Actually, it does happen. It actually, there's a pattern of escalation, which has been documented and studied. That does happen.
Well, from what I've seen as well, it is very rarely one way. Both are physically abusive to each other. Okay, right?
But
now we can hold on. I agree.
If a man abuses a woman versus the other way around, who is more likely to get hurt?
Hold on. I don't disagree with you, but it is not one way. Just because I'm less likely to have as much damage because you're not as strong does not condone your abuse to me.
Okay.
Right? So most domestic abuse situations, it is both parties, right? Yeah, the consequence and damage is different based on man and woman, strength, etc. But it's both. It's not just one.
So when there are fatalities in this case, who usually is the victim? Is it men or women?
Of course, it's women. But what I'm saying is, you said leaving a marriage because of abuse. You didn't say leaving a marriage because someone died, right? So if we're talking about leaving a marriage because of abuse, right? It is actually both parties 9 times out of 10. Because do you know what relationships actually have the highest rate of domestic abuse?
The women.
Exactly. So the idea that it's just like, okay, well, she left because of abuse and like, it's because she never ever did anything for 90% of cases, that is not the case. Okay. Infidelity, something you can work through. Not saying you have to.
I challenge that. I don't think
women
are as much. I would like to see those stats.
Do you know women are actually more likely to enter the domestic abuse kind of terrain to actually put their hands on a partner, but it's when men do it, you're right, they're a lot more the damages is a lot more because obviously men are physically bigger and stronger, hence why the highest rate of domestic abuse is actually in lesbian relationships, and the lowest rate of domestic abuse is homosexual relationships between men, right? So the idea that, okay, it's just guys just abusing women like one way, 90% of the time, you can look this up, 90% of the time it is both ways. But of course, if he's stronger, the damage is going to be a lot more that way. But actually, in terms of who's more likely to engage in physical domestic abuse, right, who steps into that first a lot of the time, statistically speaking, it's actually the women, and this shows, right? So in regards to marriage, in terms of domestic abuse, right, first, it's usually both parties, right, in some capacities. Sure, maybe they should end things. That's
I think what you're saying is more of like toxic relationships are different when there is a dynamic, which means like a imbalance of domestic abuse because
There should be zero domestic abuse, period. I don't
Yeah,
care.
that's-
Here's the thing. I don't
that's
care. I don't
true.
care if you're a woman. Just
But
because
if
you're
you-
a woman doesn't mean you can put your hands on me.
But if we look at the fatalities, that would suggest that.
We're talking about divorce though. We're not talking about fatalities. That's what
the
you asked
reason
me
that
about.
you would get. So I know there's this idea of like when women are like, I was getting emotionally abused, so I had to leave the marriage, right? People are like, well, that's a silly reason, right? Well, what exactly is emotional abuse, right? Do you feel like that is a valid reason to get divorced when women bring that up?
You'd have to quantify what emotional abuse is.
Exactly, right? So I think women throw that out there, and I feel like there's a lot of criticism around that. But studies show that usually before there's the ultimate, like fatality, that there's a pattern of escalation, right? So
from both sides. Because thing is, I'm and you maybe you don't intend this, right? But you're making this very
confusing right now.
No, because you're making the case.
If you look at the statistics,
hold on, because you asked me a question. Hold on, you asked me a question.
It starts somewhere.
Aja, you asked me a question, right? We were talking about divorce. We're not talking about fatalities. That's a different conversation.
Due to
abuse. Hold on.
That's what I was talking
so
about.
when we're talking about a divorce due to abuse, 90% of cases, the abuse is both ways. It is not just one. That's what I'm trying to articulate to you, and the stats show that. And actually, when you look at the stats, right, the demographic of people who are actually more likely to enter the realm of physical abuse is actually women.
So your conclusion is women are or more violent as men and could potentially do the same damage.
No, that's not what
why
I
are
said.
we bringing this up?
You asked me about reasons for divorce, and you raised abuse. I said, one, abuse is usually both, which is true. Second thing, you talked about infidelity. Infidelity is something people can work through if they want to. Okay. So I was saying, because my original point was, if you would leave a marriage because you're unhappy, then don't get married, because marriage is not about happiness. Marriage is about duty and commitment.
I agree with that, but if you're in a relationship that has abuse,
I think that's an exceptional circumstance. Yes, I agree.
I don't know that it's
I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you should work through that.
I think there's a book called The Life-Saving Divorce by a lady named Gretchen Baskerville. Something like. Have you heard of this book?
I haven't. No.
Well, I think that's a good book because it kind of debunks this idea that people are getting divorced for frivolous reasons. They're unhappy. And when she digs into the numbers, they actually show that people are getting divorced for more serious reasons. So the narrative online might be I'm unhappy, but if you dig into the numbers, they may include things like addictions, gambling, sex addiction, infidelity, abuse, right? So I feel like happiness does matter if there are dangerous scenarios going. If you're married to a gambler, you're going to be unhappy.
Okay, but most sure, but one, for more majority of cases, that person didn't wake up one day, decide to be a gambler. Okay, that person didn't wake up one day and start putting their hand. Like, it doesn't just happen randomly. Okay, a lot of the times, and this is actually an issue with the Black community as well. A lot of the times, the character traits that actually end the relationship were very present in the beginning, but people have rose tinted. Exactly. So part
I
of
agree.
it.
You're right.
So part of it is choosing someone, right, who doesn't have that, right? So being able to choose better partners.
Yes.
So if we're taking a case that you're choosing a better partner, right, which is obviously, that should be a given, right? You shouldn't be choosing someone that, obviously, you can actually build something with. Outside of that, right? Yeah, you shouldn't leave a marriage because you're unhappy. You shouldn't. And if you would, don't get married. Marriage is not for you. Have a relationship, do what you want, but marriage is about duty and commitment. And I'm going to be honest, considering you saying that you're a Christian, I'm surprised you're pushing back on me with this.
I mean, maybe 10 years ago when I was married, maybe I would say the same thing, but I now realize that there are circumstances that do warrant divorce. And I'm very conservative.
Sure, but lack of happiness is not one of them.
Well, I mean, looking back, I can say that I wasn't happy in my marriage because I was married to someone who didn't like me. But as a Christian, you are trained to be like, well, no, that doesn't matter. You just go with duty, duty, duty. But sometimes if you dig into the root of why you're unhappy and you pull back that cover, there may be some other root reasons there that you need to investigate, which is what I did. And then I realized I was married to someone who they didn't want to be married. So I'm not going to stay in a situation. Why would I stay in a situation with someone who they think of marriage as something very different? Like that would not work out. And I will say I was not happy.
I understand. I mean, you said you guys were together for 17 years, right?
Yes.
So I'd be hard pressed to believe that he didn't want to be married from day one. I'd be
no,
very hard pressed to believe.
So I'll rephrase that. So he did want to be married. So he wanted marriage, but his idea of marriage was very different from mine, which actually brought unhappiness and danger to my life. So, so I think that.
So here's my question: if you both wanted to work through it, could you have?
Yeah, I was definitely willing to, and yes, I want to do this. Let's go to counseling. Let's do all that, right? But just because somebody is willing to and they want to, it doesn't mean they have the capacity to. It's like somebody like
I'm not gonna make judgments on your particular situation because only you know the details of that. I'm not gonna ask about that. But I'm gonna be honest. If two people, if you were told that you will not be able to be with anybody else for the rest of your life, and both people were told that, they would make it work.
Yeah, I realized that is a very that's a real outcome that could happen for me.
Like if both people want to make it work and they're willing to put in the work, they absolutely can. Absolutely.
They can, but you have to understand marriage takes two people, right? In my case, the person I was with did not want to change his definition of what marriage
Well,
looked like.
so you're saying he didn't want to work through it.
How do I say this? So because someone can say, yes, yeah, I'll do counseling, I'll do this. But if they don't change their behavior, then at the end of the day, they don't want, even though he may think he does.
Did you change your behavior?
Yes. Like, well, there really wasn't any behavior to change.
Not
being accountable. Yeah.
Accountability. Oh, so it was all him. It was all him. Is that what you're telling me?
I know I want to take me out of this because, again, I don't want to go into my personal situation, but there are absolutely situations where, let's say, a woman who is married and she just spends up all the money and the husband did nothing wrong. He loves her. He goes to work and she will not change her spending habits. What does the husband have to change it? Why does his behavior have to change if he was loving, brought his checkbook to the equation, did count? What does he have to change?
So here's the issue, okay? When there's a problem in the relationship, it's on one person to see, okay, how can they move better to serve the relationship? It's also on the other person to say, how can I support this person in making that move?
Okay, let's say in this scenario.
So that requires both of them to shift their behavior because the dynamic can only stay the same if they both stay the same.
Okay, but so let's say in this scenario, the husband is like, you know what? Let's go to counseling. Let's do more date nights. Let me try to be more present. And he's changing every way he can to be a good husband. And her mindset is like, you know what? I grew up poor. I'm not going on a budget for anyone, not even you. Like what? Or let's say she's like, you know what? Fine. Let's try the budget thing. Let's try.
But that sounds like she's not really putting in the work though.
That's what I'm trying to say. People can say,
but does she say she want to?
Yeah, this happens. I can tell you're so much younger than me. This is a very, because at the end of the day,
I mean, if they don't have the money, she can't spend it. It's that simple. Like you can't spend money you don't have.
Well,
it's an easy way to mitigate that. Like if I'm providing and she's spending all this money and I'm like, you can't spend this.
She can get personal loans. She can't
get it in my name.
Well, she can get it in her name and still have to use the family budget to pay the bills. Like there's ways around it, right? This is a real situation. People get married and they have spendthrift partners. And think about this lady, she in the same scenario, maybe she has 3 kids with the guy. And at the end of the day, she gets some benefit out of it because he says, I'm not going to pay. But he does pay. He still shows up. He helps her with the kids.
Then he didn't change his behavior, did he?
Well, he's doing counseling. He's trying to be present, right?
No, but he shouldn't pay. If you're saying to me, if I'm providing and I'm like, babe, I'm not happy with your spending habits because that's having an effect on the family. You need to stop this, right? And she's like, I don't want to stop this. I'm like, well, I'm not paying for it. So what are you going to do?
Okay.
Simple. And then if it's a serious, like, oh, she gets credit cards, whatever, we'd be like,
Mhm.
cool. Maybe we need to have 2 separate homes,
Mhm.
right? You can have this thing. We're
That
still
sounds like a divorce.
Hold on, it's not a divorce. It's not a divorce because you can have 2 separate homes and still be married, right?
Why
And then you
would
can
you
go
do that?
because sometimes relationships, in order to work, sometimes you need an element of space, right? So then you can come back together. Okay, sometimes
that's not
that
a working.
happens.
That to me, that's not a definition of a relationship.
Well, what I'm saying is you can work at a distance. All right, you can work at a distance. So anyway, we have to wrap it there. But this is interesting. I definitely want to get back on. Bottom line is, I think that it takes 2 to tango,
Yes,
right?
everyone has to be willing.
And so to say that, okay, well, the reason this ended is purely because of the other person, I think we have to take accountability. Even if that other person behaved badly, right? It could be, okay, well, did I choose the right kind of person? Or are we both willing? If you're both willing to make it work, right? Then sometimes it can take time.
I just have to ask you this. So you're saying there is not a relationship at all where it can exist where someone did the bad stuff and it was just that person. Are you saying that does not exist?
No, I'm saying that's an exceptional extreme.
It
is not the case for 90% relationships where it's just one person who's this evil person and the other one's perfect. No, that's not the case.
How many married people do you know and hang
Hold on. So wait, hold on. So
really
no, I'm talking like, so just general in relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think one person's perfect and the other person is evil and just does everything wrong. Is that what you're telling me?
No, that's what I'm saying. There are circumstances and scenarios in relationships where there is someone who they are the provoker, the instigator, they are the initiator. That happens. Not in all situations. In some situations, there's mutual toxicity.
Yep.
They're mutually toxic. That happens as well. But I think we do also need to be able to accept that there are some relationships where there is one person who is an aggressor. They may have a criminal background.
Why did you marry them?
Well, maybe you don't know, or they have criminal tendencies, or
they have a criminal background. You don't know.
This is what I'm trying to say. Like, yes, for example, in my situation, could I have done a better job vetting, choosing, for sure. But there are some situations where there is one person who is responsible for tearing down the marriage. The other person may have been an enabler. They may have let the behavior go on too long. Yes, that happens. But there are aggressors and abusive, violent people, even if we don't go as far as abuse and things like that, there are women who spend up all the money and bankrupt a family.
I don't disagree with you. Okay.
It's their fault.
This is the last thing I'll say, okay? You can have someone who's toxic and someone who isn't. Yeah?
It does happen.
100%. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're both willing to work on the relationship, they need to change their behavior.
Exactly.
But they also change theirs.
Sure.
So it doesn't enable this toxicity.
Absolutely.
So the change comes from both. Even in the scenario where one person seems to be causing 90% of the drawbacks, right? And the other person isn't, and they're doing what they need to do, right? Even though they're not perfect. If they're both willing to work on it, they both need to shift their behavior.
Yes.
It takes 2.
Sometimes they're both not willing, though.
Well, then you shouldn't get married. Simple. We're going to wrap it there. Arja, you've been great having on. Thank you for coming with this back and forth. I appreciate you.
This is crazy, but fun.
I'll take it. If people want to find you and find your stuff, where can they find you?
So I am on social media, Principles of Increase on everything. And I also have a website. So principlesofincrease.com.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing your energy with us today. We appreciate you. Guys, go give Arja a follow, give her a like, all that good stuff. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode.